Hey, welcome back to the Military Retirement Podcast. It's good to be back with you, John. Been
Welcome
a
back.
long
Welcome back.
week. Yeah,
Yeah,
been a long week. A lot of
really
research
long.
being done, and I'm looking forward to sharing a whole lot of this stuff with everybody out there. And I'm trying out a new
Yeah,
camera too, so we'll see how this goes
nice,
if it holds up.
nice. Yeah, the magic of the Apple ecosystem there.
hmm
It's good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, I even went out and bought a
Yeah,
little magnet that sits on top of my monitor, and it holds up my iPhone for the continuity camera. So, and then you can like blur the background, do the whole bokeh thing. It's pretty impressive. What would be more impressive is if my actual MacBook camera did all this itself, like the one on the computer, but it doesn't. So I have to refer to or resort to the continuity camera,
I mean that's
which
how
is
they
fine.
get your money, man.
That is right. If they included every single thing, there'd be no reason for me to have to go to the store and buy something else.
Yeah,
An
or the
adapter
MacBook would
for an
cost you
adapter.
like 50 grand.
Yeah, yeah. So I wouldn't have an adapter for my adapter.
Yeah, and
Oh
then
man.
also for the people joining who might have saw the title of the live stream, if you've been with us before, thank you for coming back. If you're a first time listener or first time joining in, feel free to drop us comments. Let us know if you have any questions. We can answer them live. But we want to let you know that I think we are done and we are ready for launch of our book, our booklet. I call it a booklet because it's not officially a book. It's 46 pages of just really good information that you should know before you decide to get out of the military, whether you're retiring or transitioning. A lot of great information in there. We worked really, really, really hard on it. We've been busting at it for months now, I guess. Huh? And
Yeah, we have. Yep.
so, yeah, I think we got it wrapped up. And so we just want to put that out there and let everybody know. And if you're not a member of the military retirement group on Facebook, if you want to go there and just sign up, get in the group, in that
hmm
questionnaire, we'll ask you for your email address. If you drop your email address in there, we're not going to spam you or send you all kinds of crazy advertisements or anything really at the moment. But that will guarantee you to get first dibs on the first copies that are going out to the public. So
Yeah, it's really exciting because we built up a community. I say we, but it's been a whole team effort from everybody in the group. We've built up a whole community on Facebook, and I think we just hit 2,000 on there. And people are really engaged with the questions and just everything we put on there. I recently put up a couple posts about advice and things that you do that you should do after you retire, and there was so much engagement on that. It was pretty incredible. I was happy to see that everybody had gotten, or most everybody had gotten their hand in there and just shared good information to folks who are about to make the transition, who maybe feel a little bit nervous, have some anxiety about what's to come next. It was really a relief to see a lot of folks just giving out the best information they could on their idea of what could have made that transition a little bit better.
yeah, if you haven't seen it yet, this is basically the military retirement group. So you know what to look for. If you're looking for the logo, just look for the little green logo that says military retirement group on it. Sign up. You can get in there, ask a bunch of questions. If you have been out or you're retiring or you've been retired for a while, you can actually answer a bunch of questions for people because there's a lot of people in there asking questions who are 1 year out, 2 years out, 3 years out. You know, the varying degrees of veterans in the group, whether they've retired already or they're getting ready to retire and become veterans, or just getting out of the military after a few years. Also, we have a few people in there like that as well. So, really great supportive group. A lot of great people in there giving really good advice. A lot of great questions, actually. So, shout out and thank you to everybody who's in the group, all 2,000 members. We really, really appreciate you and appreciate you supporting all that we're doing as we're trying to just put out the best information that we can as best we can and still working our full-time jobs and still, you know, maintaining our families and doing all this stuff, but making the side hustle kind of work.
That's right. You know, and John and I, we vet everybody who comes in there to make sure that there's no scams and people are not just joining just to spread information on financial advice and things like that. So I physically go in there and I look at folks, I look at their profiles, right, to make sure that they're not from, I don't know, some other country who have no affiliation with the U.S. military. And I make sure that they do have some kind of affiliation, right? The amount of people that I've had to decline that try to attempt to get into these groups, into this group specifically, is insane. I probably get 5 different requests per week or per day, really, and they're just all scammers. So I still have it set up on the Facebook group to automatically decline if they don't have any kind of military affiliation. But sometimes people know what to put in there to get past it. So
Yeah.
I'm going to get in there and just make sure that I decline that or I review the profile to make sure. So that way we have a good community of like-minded veterans who can assist us or assist each other rather than just a bunch of scammers asking for your money.
That's right.
Know that they're out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I get to review them once in a while, but not as much as you review them. I'm sure you probably review tons and tons of them. Every once in a while I'll see one pop up and go and review it and try to
So
screen
much
it,
fun,
but
John. So much fun, man.
it's
Just to hit
it's the
decline.
best part of my day.
Decline.
Denied.
Oh no. That's it.
Yeah.
Oh man. So yeah, we're excited about getting that that new ebook out. Like John said, we've been working on it for a minute, and hopefully it helps out veterans out there or active duty service members who are going to be making the transition. It's the bottom line up front, what you need to know before you leave the military. And if you're on the email list, like John mentioned, we're going to get this out to you. You're going to have first dibs and first sight of this coming down range to your email box, as long as we do have a correct email for you. Yeah, totally excited about this one. And look at us. We're wearing like shirts and ties in the back there, a little bio on us. You know, I'm holding up a sign like today's my first real civilian job. Yeah, it's exciting. It's nerve-wracking, the whole process, right? And I've seen a lot of talk about that on the group and in talking to other veterans, and even at my job where, you know, there's folks who are getting ready to get out. And somebody approached me about it recently too, like, hey, look, I have so many questions because I just don't know where to go. We're looking to move to one of 8 different places. Want to see if you have any information. I'm like, all right, you need to narrow it down to like 2 or 3, man. Like 8 different places. Everywhere has its pros and cons. This guy's talking about like
You don't even get that
Tennessee,
many choices
Florida.
for PCSing.
No, hell no, right? So I'm like, narrow it
8
down.
places.
Yeah, narrow it down and then we'll talk about it. Like I decided to stay in California because we had a place out here and my wife had a job out here. So I'm not going to switch her up, right? We were just simply tired of moving all the time and PCSing all the time, that we just stayed here for a while until our kids finished high school. And then maybe later on we might make another move. We don't know. It doesn't need to be forever. Now that we're retired, we have choices. We don't need to stay, right? It's nice to have a forever home. We don't need to stay there. So this gentleman at work, that was his dilemma, was he doesn't know where he's going to put his family next. He's going to be retiring in a year. And I appreciate him coming to me. He knows about the channel. He knows that we do this, right? And I told him, hey, look, we're going to come out with that book. It's going to help you out. Just kind of open your mind about things that maybe you haven't thought about before, but maybe, you know, just to put it on your radar. But I am an open book to him. So, I mean, I'm easily accessible to him because he's there. He works in my office, Navy gentleman. So I told him anytime he wants to go sit down over, I don't know, a coffee, or maybe he'll go down to like the little Subway or the little Navy Exchange or whatever. We can go sit down and just talk about retirement, his options. And I will gladly let him know everything I know. In order to help him make the best decision he can for him and his family, because the Lord knows that I've stressed out about this enough, and I'm ready to pass on some good information to the next veteran, because it really sucked, and I really put myself through some hard times just thinking about where I'm going to move, what I'm going to do. Is anybody even going to want to hire me? What am I going to do for my next step, my next mission? So all these things I went through my head. It sucks. Yes, we know, but you can't stay in the military forever. You're going to have to move on at some point, and we're going to have to be adults and figure all this out. figure all this out.
No.
No, kicking and screaming. I want to stay in. No, well, you can't. Either you
I
hit
mean,
time limitations. Go ahead.
That would be really interesting, right? If you just called up your career manager before you get out, right? Maybe the last year before you get out, and just say, "Hey, look, these are my top 3 places that I want to go. Now you give me the regular feedback that you give me, just as you would if you were getting ready to PCS me this next cycle, and tell me where
Yeah.
I'm actually going to have options to go, and then use that as kind of like a guide and be like, okay, cool. I want to go to this
As a
place, this
guide for
place, and this
retirement.
place. But you're offering me like New Hampshire, so let's see what New Hampshire's about. Let's see if it's cool."
Oh, no. Yeah, it's good to get feedback from anybody. I don't mind going to the career counselor and just getting the pros and cons about all that stuff. But it's one of the biggest things, I think, and I think we have it in our book too. But there was also folks on the military retirement group that mentioned it was connect with another veteran who's made the transition.
Yep.
You obviously cannot go to an active duty service member in your command and ask them, "Hey, look, I'm looking to retire, separate, whatever. What's the best way forward?" That's probably not the person you want to ask because they've never made that move themselves. They can only tell you what maybe they've read online or maybe what they've been exposed to. But the best person to ask is another veteran who has currently gone through that, who has already hit the TAP or TRS, and they can tell you all about it. Or somebody who's already been out, who has been there, done that, and who can express all the information to you. So that way you can make that educated step forward and doing something for you and your family. Because active duty folks are not going to know. They're not. They know what they've been exposed to, and maybe they're a career counselor, like you mentioned, and they know the best way forward for, other active duty service members and, in form of duty station, but not for retirement wise. They're not going to know about maybe the laws and legislations for each state or what schools are best, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and the same is true in reverse, right? We put out some information about different things like I put out a couple of things about Space A, and people
Mhm.
ask me a lot of questions about Space A, and some
Mhm.
of them are active duty questions like, "Hey, what do I blah blah with my command?" I'm like, it's what I understand to be the truth. I'll
Yeah.
give you what the definition says on the website or whatever it is, but as far as the active duty stuff, like we don't know because it's literally changed in the last, few months, the last year. It's literally, at least for the Army side, it's changed. Like I don't even think you do any paperwork anymore. It's all goes through one system, and you like put it all in there, and it just goes through this workflow of people who get it. It's kind of like DTS now. But with like your DA-31s for your leave forms and like all those different 4187s and all that stuff, you process it the same way kind of you process DTS, or at least that's my understanding of it. So yeah, we don't know what goes on the inside, and the same holds true. The people on the inside don't know what goes on the outside. They might have a guess, they might have read something, but until you've actually experienced it, you can't really, I don't think you can actually honestly talk about it because there's a lot of underlying stuff that goes along with just the physical retirement and getting your DD 214 and getting your retirement
right.
orders. There's a lot of mental and emotional stuff that goes along with that. A lot of baggage that you're trying to unload from the process of transitioning over, and then, like you said, the anxiety of the job, the place to live, the income, like all that stuff plays big into the retirement process. And it's not just a one-time thing. Like it's kind of like the 5 stages of grief. It goes over and over in cycles, and it goes out of order, and it's not linear. So you really should talk to somebody, whether it's a VFW or whatever veteran organizations local to you, or just come on and reach out to us and ask us questions online, and we'll give you our best feedback that we can. And if we can't get the question answered immediately, we'll find out.
Yeah, because the laws are always changing, right? Legislation is always changing, as we know. So I like to keep on top of that. I know we both talk about it, John and I, offline. But I like to keep on top of things that are changing for the veterans, things that are happening, any changes with the potential new presidency coming up, if they should switch hands, things that are happening with that. Somebody had mentioned to me on one of my videos on the Green Logbook on YouTube, mentioned to me about Project 2025. They're like, "Hey, can you kind of explain this to us in layman's terms. I actually downloaded it at work, and I've been reading it on my off time, doing like that. It's not fun to read. I mean, like what kind of like legislation really is, or new laws and stuff. But I'm going to be releasing something on that soon. There's a couple of things that I'd like to highlight in terms of how they're worded. And this is me coming from like a legal background. I was in the military justice community for 20 years. And I've read countless legal documents and had to interpret a bunch of legal stuff. And just the way things are worded, there's a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions about it. And maybe they didn't mean it to sound like that, but I don't know. But things like that, I like to look at new laws that are going to be enacted, things that may affect veterans, especially when it comes to veterans benefits and veterans health benefits. So I think I mentioned it before that I go to the VA. It's kind of more convenient for me to go to the VA for certain things than it is like go to like via TRICARE, only because I go to whoever has openings first, right? And I have TRICARE Prime for retirees, which is just regular TRICARE Prime. And dude, I'll be honest, I don't have any. I think I've mentioned it before here. I don't have anything bad to say about the VA. They have treated me super good. The only issue was that the scheduling was really, really like far in advance. So it's like if I'm going to schedule something for today or for next week, they tell me, hey, it's we have an opening in September, and that sucks because they're so backed up, like all over the country, right? I've heard some horror stories about how backed up they are. And now I found that out. Like we were talking about VRNE, and I recently released another video on the VRNE. It was just a short on the YouTube channel on the VRNE, how backed up the VA is with even getting an interview with the VRNE, right? So the VRNE is the Veterans Readiness and Employment Program. So that's something where they can give you access to more employment opportunities to help you get employed, help you get educated in employment, and also potentially pay for your college degree, which is my intent. And I got back an email saying, hey, look, we got you an appointment for June 16th of 2025. I'm like, what? June 16th, 2025? Like that? I'm like, is this a typo? It can't be a typo because June already passed, right? So
Right.
June 2024 already passed. So I emailed him back yesterday. I'm like, hey, look, is there any way to expedite this? Because I'm trying to get into classes like the next coming semester. But as with the VA, things take time. As with anything with the government, things take time, and there's a way to do things, and I don't think I'm going to be able to expedite that. But just letting folks know out there who may not know, when you get out, things may take some more time. I can't just go down to the education office at my local base like I used to and be like, hey, look, I want to sign up for this TA. Let me route this to the CO or whatever, sign off. Right. Same day, I'll have the TA form to them, right? It doesn't work like that anymore. It's kind of like a hurry up and wait game. So let me see. I'll share the link to that video for anybody watching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also for those paying attention, like we said, we got the book ready. I already shared this out, so sorry, Victor.
No, you're all good, man. Go ahead.
But we do have a one pager in there for the VRNE process specifically. I think we should probably get a couple more one pagers for some of the other things, but it's really hard to just wrangle that stuff in. VRNE seems to be, or at least the education benefits seems to be one where you can really kind of pin it down. And then again, the only thing you got to really take in consideration is the wait times, the processing times. Mine's still in the process of being done, and it's been 2 months. And so my wait time initially to get the interview was pretty quick. It was a couple weeks. But after that, it's a long process. I think we just rescheduled. We were supposed to meet on the 31st of this month, next week. And he actually bumped it up to like the 8th of August. So yeah, they're busy. They're doing a lot of stuff, and they're doing a lot of good stuff. And actually the ones who are doing the best work are the ones who are the busiest, I would venture to say. So yeah, you just got to be patient with them and remember to try to do things in order if you're trying to get those VA education benefits, whether it's the post 9/11 or the VRNE stuff, which is not education, it's rehabilitation and employment, but potentially has education built into it, or just your regular GI Bill if you're trying to get those extra 12 months. Like, just be prepared that you're not going to get it done next week so you can start school the following week. Like, it's not going to work like that. But there are ways you can work it out. Like I think you were talking about, and what I actually did was I used my post 9/11 already, and then I signed up for VRNE, which was kind of the backwards way to do it. But you can potentially get that depending on if you're VA rated before you started using your post 9/11 GI. At least that's my understanding and how I read it in the regulation there for retroactive induction, which they have retroactive induction for a whole litany of things in the military, in the VA system at least. So, but yeah, we do have a one pager, and I'll just pop it up real quick to let everybody see it or whatever. But it just basically gives you step by step, like what you need to do for your education benefits, in what order. And then if you get out of order, here's some ways to kind of mitigate that and try to maintain as much education benefits as you can so you can maximize that whole entire education benefit process for yourself, for your family, as well as leveraging other benefits that may come from the state or something like that.
Yeah, that's probably the way I'm going to have to do it too, is do the post 9/11 first and then go the VRNE, hoping that they approve me for the VRNE, right? So my intent was to go to get the master's and potentially go past that if possible, or finish off the master's because I already have a bunch of credits for it. But I don't know if that's going to happen because I may just have the post 9/11 and then they may tell me no for the VRNE because I'm already done with the master's at that point because of the post 9/11. So I don't know how it's going to work out. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast, right? That's just the way it works. That's the way it's going to work for me, potentially. So I'm not complaining because I've got the educational benefits anyway, and so does my family. But I do wish that it would have worked a little bit differently, where I got the VRD first and the post 9/11. I didn't anticipate it being a year out before I even talked to somebody about getting an interview to see if I can be potentially cleared to do my master's, so it's like one before the other. But whatever, it's fine. It's the way it works. I'm not complaining. I got the educational benefits that I can use. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. And it's surprising to hear that it's going to take that long for just the initial interview, but
yeah,
just
and they did mention that it's because it's California. And I mean, if you've ever been to Southern California, there's a ton of veterans out here, a ton of veterans, man, people who like it out here or choose to stay here. Yeah. Some people don't like it because of the laws, et cetera, but dude, I mean, the weather is amazing. It barely rains. You can go to the, hang out. I was out fishing yesterday for like half the day. It's great weather, man. I can't really beat it. So, people choose to stay here. I mean, there's a ton of veterans out here, and it takes so long because everybody out here is probably applying for that, or for the most part, they're applying for that same thing. So I'm not the only one.
Yeah. There's a ton of veterans that are actually from there originally too, because I guess they do a lot of Navy recruiting out of there, probably a lot of Marine recruiting as well, just because they have the big bases there. And there's a ton of people that come from San Diego, or in one point of their life, especially in the Navy and the Marines, end up there stationed there. So yeah,
it's a nice place to be for sure. I mean, some people don't prefer it, but it's not bad for the time being. Kids like it and wife likes it, so I'm here.
And they got a pretty damn good football team.
Which one is that? USC?
Chargers.
Which one are we talking about?
Isn't the Chargers still there?
Yeah, they moved to LA. So I was here back when they had Qualcomm Stadium down the road, and I never actually went there, but then they moved before I got PCS'd out here from Hawaii. they moved the Chargers to LA. So it's like, damn, I can't even watch a damn Chargers game now. It'd be nice to. I mean, I guess I could, but I hate driving to LA, man. Like, I just don't like being up there. It's so different than San Diego. It's crazy.
Yep. Yeah, it's totally different.
Really different, man. Yeah. So yeah, I prefer not to go up there if I have the choice. What I'm going to pull up here is some of these questions that I had asked on the Facebook group, and one of them being here. Let me just pull this thing up here on the screen.
Yeah. While you're doing that, shout out to Military Mike for joining us again. I asked him, like, what were some things that you didn't expect. He's been out for a month. He just retired a month ago, and I asked him, what are some things that you didn't expect to come across that you've come across already in the last month? And he was mentioning something about trying to get the VA appointment scheduled and trying to get transportation assistance, and they didn't have drivers available. So if you're in that kind of boat where you need transportation assistance to get your VA appointments, that might be something you might want to take a look at, or at least keep in the back of your mind if you might need to find an alternative method to do that or something like that. Or if you want to be a good Samaritan and create a nonprofit and do this for people around the country, that's a great job opportunity for you out there.
Yeah. When I go to my VA appointments, like, I'll walk in the building and there's usually like an Uber dropping off and like an elderly person. All that stuff is reimbursable from the VA. I think they just reimburse you by mileage, right? I don't know if they're going to reimburse the entire Uber ride. I don't know how it works exactly, but from what I've read, I mean, when I go to the counter, I see a little note on there saying, reimburse for rides and stuff for the VA appointments. So, hey, Military Mike, I'm sure you already know, and you've done a deep dive on how to get reimbursed for all this stuff, but that option is out there for folks who are listening. Is getting reimbursed by the VA for your mileage and your transportation out to your appointments. I'm going to add this to the stage real quick. This is a couple questions that I asked on the military retirement group. Specifically, what are the biggest retirement questions on your mind right now? And we got about 32 comments, and I posted this just a few days ago. Let me see. It's we got one from Dave. Not a question, just my biggest concern, my BDD medical claim. I should have gone to medical more. I hear that sometimes because you don't think about it, or maybe it's like you're shunned from. If you go to medical too much, you become a medical. What is it called? I forgot the name that they call you.
A sick call.
Sick call commando. Sick call commando. There you go. But yeah, if you go to medical too much, it looks bad on you, right? Especially in your early career, when you're younger, you're supposed to be more active and all that. When you're older, it's like, you start feeling the aches and pains of your career, so you start going to medical more. That happens, and I understand where you're coming from. It happened to me too. Like, I didn't really start hitting hard until like the last 2 or 3 years of my time in the Marine Corps, just because the only time I went to medical was when something was really bad, and not when I felt an aching pain in my lower back. I should have probably went, because now that thing is, I really feel it now. But it is what it is. I understand where Dave's coming from. Let me see. Joe Segura, he had mentioned that Project 2025. I'm already looking into that, how that affects VA disability ratings. And where's the government at with the whole the MGI Bill, Montgomery GI Bill topic? All I hear is contact your VA. So that goes back to how that U.S. versus Rudisill, or Rudisill versus McDonough, excuse me, the Supreme Court ruling back in April regarding not just having your Montgomery GI Bill and not just having your post 9/11 GI Bill, you actually rate both. And a week after they passed that, I called the VA to ask them about the educational benefits and see how I can establish both of those instead of just having one, because on their page at the time, it was just the post 9/11 or the Montgomery GI Bill. It's not both of them. It's just either or. So I did call them. They didn't know what I was talking about. It was too fresh it was too new, right? They just passed the legislation. The person on the phone didn't even know what I was talking about.
Yep.
So then after a while, I think it was just a few weeks ago, they put it on their website saying that they're now going to be enacting this. It was just a banner, right, saying that they're going to be enacting the U.S. or the Supreme Court ruling, but they didn't have a date on there. So I'm happy to keep looking. I've got that thing bookmarked for any updates. So more to come on that one. Let's see here. Information on vision and dental for my dependents. That's a good one because when you get out, TRICARE Prime does not have vision and dental, right? It does not have it, in its package for, whatever it is. The family TRICARE plan is like $67 a month, and it's super cheap for what it is, right? I mean, any other civilian insurance is going to cost you several hundreds a month. TRICARE Prime is 67. I think it's 67 now, unless they've changed the prices since last year. But it doesn't include vision and dental. So with that, you have the option of like Benefeds or FedVip, right? Benefeds is the company, and then FedVip, I believe, is the dental portion of it. But you can use that as you're retiring, and also for federal employees, they have the same options of going with Benefeds. So I think I posted on his question on there about it. Let's see what else we got here. People are asking about what their actual retirement amount will be. They called DFAS and said they couldn't help until the actual retirement date. That's a little tough. The actual retirement amount. I mean, there's calculators out there, and I think this person was asking for it because there was a follow-on question because they were trying to apply to a house and they were trying to provide that information to their lender, and they were asking about what the amount would be. From what I understand, that there's a letter that can be generated. I'm not sure exactly who does that. I wish I had more information on that. I never had to really look into that because I wasn't in that situation, but I think that is what that gentleman was asking about. Let's see.
There was one up there about BAH. Yeah.
Do you still get BAH on terminal leave? If you relocate, do you get BAH at your duty station or wherever you take terminal at? Do you collect leave while on terminal leave? Should I calculate that in my overall terminal leave plan? I mean, there's a lot of questions on this one. If I do SkillBridge, this terminal come first, or SkillBridge PTAD? After SkillBridge, do you have to go back to your duty station to get your TD 214? Well, to answer the first one, do you get BAH while on terminal leave? The answer is yes, because you were technically still active duty on terminal leave. It's just like as if you took regular leave, to go to Florida or wherever you go, you're still in active duty, you still get BAH. It would suck if they actually took the BAH away from you.
That would be crazy.
When you went on leave.
That would be in the news.
Yeah.
And it stays the same rate as your duty station. It doesn't change.
That's right. That's right. So that was a big question when I was going through TRS. People were asking about that. Hey, look, I'm doing a SkillBridge in a lower cost area. Do I, it was like Missouri, I don't know where they were going, but they were going from San Diego to some other like Midwest company. And they were all afraid. They had so many questions. Look, am I going to lose out on my San Diego BH? Because his plan was to go out there first and do his SkillBridge while his family still lived here. And they were renting a place out here. But the answer was, of course, no, they keep their BAH for San Diego because they're going out there just to do the SkillBridge, and they come back and then they complete their out processing. Let me see. Yeah, there's a lot of questions about where to live. And unfortunately, I can't give the answer to that. I don't know what the circumstances are. Maybe you want to go back to live where your family's from, or where your original home of record is from. Maybe you want to go back to live where there's a job offer, or maybe you like where you did your SkillBridge and you want to go stay there. There's a lot of factors that go into that. Unfortunately, I cannot give you a solid answer to that, but I can guide you depending on what your answers are. If anybody does have questions about that, please feel free to reach out to either one of us, John or I. We can assist you with that on the Military Retirement Group, or even on, Military Retirement Podcast at gmail.com. And we can answer any kind of questions you may have. But that's probably a big one on people's minds. Where the heck am I going to move after? Where am I going to put my family after? And that's a scary one because you don't know. It's the fear of the unknown, right? That gets you. And I don't know what this last one was. Alam? I don't know. Oh yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that is. Let me pull up this other one here. Retirees in the group. It's here we go. Is that one showing up? It is. Retirees in the group. This is the question I asked. Post one piece of advice to those about to make the transition. Okay. And it got a good amount. It got 38 comments on here. And I just kicked it off just to throw something else out there. Pay off all your debt prior to your end of active service. It will ensure that you start chapter 2 of your life with a clean slate. John and I talk about this all the time. You don't want to start off a second chapter of your life with a burden on your shoulders and knowing that you have to pay for that nice Range Rover that you purchased at 28% interest 5 years ago, and you still owe 75,000 on it. Get rid of that trash. You don't want to start your second life like that. I threw another one out there. Submit your BDD claim, but don't pay a company for VA disability claim preparation, aka Claim Sharks. I know John and I have talked about this as well on the podcast. They're out there and they will try to take your money. And they ask for a huge amount equal to several months' pay. Utilize a certified VSO instead. All right. And this is one I dropped a video on this on the Green Logbook a while back, how somebody on LinkedIn had tried to get a hold of me, and I just played the game, right? I just said, hey, look, even though I still had I already had my VA rating, I told them, hey, look, I'm looking to get VA rated. How can you help me? And they came back with, tell me how I can initiate with their company. And then they started sending me emails. And my question was just simply, how much do I owe after the fact? And it was 5 times the amount of what I get. So I told them, hey, look, I just threw a number out there. I'm rated at like 30% and I want to get to 100. So it's 5 times what it goes up. So I calculated that out to be about $17,000 that I would owe them. Insane. These are not VSOs. These are companies that are called Claim Sharks that do this for a living. Unfortunately, they prey off veterans who don't really know any better. Let me see. We got one from Justin Murphy. We've had Justin on here a couple times. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say just additionally for that, like paying the VA Claim Sharks, loan sharks. They could be loan sharks. The Claim Sharks, not only paying them, like if you want to pay them, but just understand that there's a big microscope on all of them right now from the federal government. So if you pay them now and maybe they go completely out of business because the federal government maybe shuts them down, like I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm just saying they've got a microscope on them right now. That's kind of a target on their back. So just be really, really, really careful. Your best bet is to just not kind of go down that path because it might end up really bad in multiple ways, not just losing a lot of money for getting your VA claim approved and getting your 100% or whatever it is, but they may retroactively come back and the VA may be like, well, these guys are garbage, so we're just going to disband all the claims that have been done by this company or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Just a lot of things that could happen there, and I don't want to speculate and be like, this is what's going to happen, but just be really, really, really careful.
Yeah, that's true. Let me see. We have Justin Murphy's comment on here. Get every single ache, pain, and ailment formally diagnosed on paper by a medical practitioner before you depart the service. If you want to get front-loaded in line for your disability claim, ensure you submit your packet no later than 90 days or 90 prior to your separation date. Failure to do so will cost you 1+ year of waiting. Yeah, get all that stuff. And he's completely right. Get all that stuff.
And hello to Denica DeVille out there. I hope I'm saying that right. It looks like DeVille. And I only say that because I owned a Cadillac Coupe DeVille, and that's the way I said it. She does have a question, actually. She's asking about the BDD claim before ETSing in December of this year. Any advice? I think we're just talking about that. Vic. John DeVic, do you read me over? Well, I don't know what happened. We'll see if Vic pops back online, hopefully. But yeah, advice would be what Justin was saying in his comment on that Facebook post that we made. Make sure you get everything documented. If you get it documented through your private provider, if you get it documented through the military, just make sure you get the documentation done. Anything that's wrong, just go ahead and take care of it. Get it seen. If you've got a ingrown toenail, if you've got like whatever it happens to be, get it documented by a doctor, and then make sure you get copies of all those military and civilian medical records so that you can have all that stuff together. And then the next thing that I would say is, if you've got a VSO on base, which you should have at Fort Campbell, it's been a couple years since I've been there, but I believe they have an office there on the base, and they also have a bunch of people around the base because Fort Campbell's a huge base. So see if you can reach out to somebody like at the DAV or something like. We recommend the DAV because they're really, really good. But also like any other folks out there that you could reach out to, VSOs. And yes, to answer your question, I'm an Army veteran. I did 25 years in the Army. So, but yeah, get that documented. Reach out to a VSO. Understand that your timeline is 180 days to your last day in the military or your last active service day, whatever that happens to be, up to 90 days. So there's a small, like, 90-day window that you have to file your BDD claim. And then if you can, maybe sit down with all of your records in a nice quiet space with maybe a glass of wine, and just sit down and go through from head to toe, like, what are you looking at as far as ailments and things that are wrong, that you want to kind of like put in a little checklist. And if you want to even go one step further, there's a thing called the 38 CFR out there that has basically every single piece of information. I would look up the E CFR, not just the 38 CFR, because 38 CFR, the regular site, is a ton of Word documents that you have to download one at a time, and it sucks. But if you can find the eCFR, and we've talked about it before on the show, we also have it linked in the book. So if you get a copy of the book, you'll have that information in there as well. But you can look through that, and it'll tell you exactly what you can claim, and it'll tell you exactly what the percentage ratings look like based on how they rate your claim. So those things, hopefully that helps out. If you've got any other questions, Danica, just let us know.
All right. Yeah, my connection had fallen off there for a second. I'm sure you noticed that. I came back online as you were talking about ingrown toenails, so I know you were talking about me there, John.
I was doing radio checks, and I was like, getting nothing back. I was like, all right, cool. Radio silence.
Dude,
got it.
I don't know what's going on, man. I was like, I was just talking, and I'm like, hey, hello? Is this thing buffering? So yeah, nothing was going on. But I'm glad I came in right in the middle as you were talking about, the question that Danica had about the BDD claim. All excellent advice, excellent information. Biggest thing is get it done during the time frame. Like for me, set a calendar date when you're going to hit your 180 mark. Like I went in probably a month prior to my 180 mark, and they wouldn't even see me. I went to the DAV. They wouldn't even see me. They're like, yeah, you're not within the 180 to 90 day mark. That's when we can see you. So I said, hey, good to go. I went and put a calendar invite to myself, or a calendar update to myself, to come back, to call them back a week before my 180 mark to make an appointment on my 180 mark. And sure enough, I got in there like 2 days after the 180 mark, which was great. Got all my stuff situated and submitted and fell within the bounds of the BDD process. And surprisingly, it went extremely smooth to the point where I actually got my rating 11 days after I got out, after my EAS. So I have friends who still don't have a VA rating, and they retired the same time I did in December of 2023. So unfortunately, they went outside the bounds of the BDD process for whatever reason, and they still don't have a rating to this day. So unfortunately, that's how it happens. But the VA is really backed up.
Yeah,
really backed up. Let me see what else we got on here really quick. Yeah, this was a good one from Michael Espinoza on the group. Understand that your retirement begins the first day of the following month. So you have to wait for that month end to be paid for your first month of retirement. Say your last day is September 30th, and then you're retired beginning October 1st. That means no pay for all of October, as you are no longer active duty, nor have you completed a month of retirement for pension. The last active duty check, the one that you would be owed for 15 to 30 September, will be held while your pay/leave days, etc., are audited. So you'll have no paycheck for roughly 45 days at a minimum. If the audit gets delayed, your pension can be held until it's sorted. As for VA claims, they should all be completed and submitted at least 90 days prior to retirement. It'll take the VA some time to award your ratings, and you won't receive VA or disability benefits or payments if over 50% until that's done. So be ready to hold down your bills for a minimum of 2 months. Okay. And I completely understand that, because I've seen a ton of questions about that too. Like, how long does it take to get paid, etc. And I made the video of all the pay timelines that I had. It does take a little bit. I'll tell you that. And it does skip a month. People are like, hey, how come I didn't get any paycheck this month? Well, I'm no longer active duty, and the VA has to process my stuff, or DFAS has to process my stuff. So yeah, be ready to hold it down for at least a month, maybe even 2 months. If you're within that timeline. Let's see what we got here. Ernest Allen had mentioned, take that year off because you're still transitioning, ensuring that all your benefits are applied for. Spend time with family and friends while exploring your options for Chapter 2. I don't know about you, John. Like, I went straight into another career. I actually started my career while I was on terminal leave, my new career. So it just so happened like that. I didn't really plan it. I was just applying to a bunch of places. And through my network, I was able to find another job that paid extremely well. So I'm like, you know what? Let me just dip my toes in here and see what it's all about. And I'm still there almost a year later. Well, not really. It's probably 6-7 months later. But it's been working out. But I also had that feeling of maybe I started too quick, and I wasn't able to take that time off effectively. Like, I took a month and a half, almost 2 months off on terminal leave before I started that new job. And to this day, I still feel like, man, I wish I would have taken a little bit more time off before I started a new job, at least to hang out with the family, especially during summer vacation, things like that. And it's just a feeling I have. I'm sure a lot of folks have that same feeling and kind of kick themselves in the ass a little bit. Though I am grateful for the career that I started, because it allows me to take my family on trips and plan things with the family. But sometimes I do wish that I would have taken a little bit more time to kind of to myself, to go travel, to go whatever, grow a man bun and find myself or something out and go on some ayahuasca trip or something.
I mean,
I can't grow a man bun, man. There's nothing back.
Yeah, you can. It just takes a while. That's all. It takes a while, and lots of rubber bands, lots of scrunchies.
No.
Yeah, I'm the polar opposite, man. I kind of had the exact opposite kind of anxiety. Like, a lot of people have the anxiety of where they're going to live and what they want to do. And I had that all figured out already, basically. And I had already started doing this stuff, which is basically my career now. Not really, but I'm still constantly looking for jobs as well and trying to line one up and get one set up right now, actually. But yeah, I went God, how long has it been? 2021. So basically, from the end of 2021 till now, I've been jobless, and that created a lot of anxiety. It still does create a little bit of anxiety, but now that I've done it for a couple of years, then I realize like everything's going to be fine. Like I'm not going to starve to death. I've set myself up in a way, as we talked about in one of the first questions, to pay off all my debt and get rid of all the crap. That way I can make sure, really, I just wanted to guarantee that no matter where I go in the world, what I happen to end up be doing, that I can potentially just live off of my military retirement alone, period. And so I set my life up that way. I set my finances up that way, and I cut back a lot of things and cut a lot of things out of life. And um, I've realized that you can do that. Like even if you have a family, even if you have family and kids, like you can still do that. You just have to really
Mhm.
set boundaries around your life, right? A lot of people are like, "Oh, I can't live off of like this much money a month," and like it just depends where you live, and it depends on what you spend your money on. Like you need to do an audit of your finances a couple times, not just once. Just don't just do it once and be like,
Yeah.
"Okay, I know exactly what I spend, and this is where all my money goes." Like, no,
Mhm.
you have to constantly keep up with that and constantly keep looking at it until you get to a place where you're comfortable enough to anticipate everything that's going to happen, even the bad stuff, have money saved up in an account so you can, you know, pay for a broken transmission or like whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
But now, I guess 3 years or whatever, 4 years forward, um, I'm definitely not as anxious. I would definitely recommend anybody who's getting out and you're trying to jump straight into that job, and maybe you're worried about this thing called what is it called, where you have this gap in your resume, right? You have like a year
Oh
or
yeah.
two gap in your resume and people are like, oh, they're not going to hire me because of that. That's bullshit. That's a myth. If the company that's hiring you is that strict about it, like that's not the right company, man, trust me.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not. So I would recommend everybody to take at least a few months off if you can afford it, and you can set and this goes back to planning, right? Backwards planning from the date that you want to retire a few years out. If you can set that up and get that in place, and when you get to that point of retirement, if you can take off a year, just take off a year and go travel, take off a year and spend a whole entire year with your wife or your husband in an RV and just travel around the country and just get to reconnect with each other. Like do those kind of things, right? Don't just take off a year and just piddle it away. I mean, you can. There's nothing wrong with that, but have some intention behind
Yeah.
taking off a year as well, right? Not don't just take off a year or take off 6 months just because you feel like you need a break. Like have a little intention behind what you want to do. And with anything, have intention behind the jobs you're applying for, have intention behind learning new skills, going back to school, like have intention behind
Mhm.
what you want to do. And that'll help you get through the humps that you're going to hit along the way, either way. But yeah, I would tell everybody to take a year off before you go back to work. And you'd be
Yeah.
surprised what kind of shift goes on in your mind when you do that.
Yeah. That's good advice, man. One because I know a lot of folks kind of kick themselves in behind. Like I should have done this, should have done that. Well, it's funny to say the words like you're retired now, right? Because we're not like 65, right? But or
Right.
67, whatever the retirement age is now. You're retired now. You have that extra income to kind of supplement your lifestyle with. If you can learn to live a little bit simpler,
Yep.
um,
Simple.
then things can work out for you. So when I retired, I told my wife, "Hey, look, let's move to a smaller place. Let's get rid of half the crap that we have because we don't need any of this stuff." Right? I gave away some of the couches. We got something else. I gave away a bunch of TVs because we used to have like a TV in the rooms. I'm like, I don't want a TV in the room anymore. Let's give this stuff away. The idea was to live a little bit more simply, and we've established that, which gives us the option to do other things, right? Because we don't have other things, all these things weighing us down. We got rid of some of the streaming services because we really don't need them. I didn't want to expose my kids to all that stuff, right? They're constantly on their computers and stuff like that, or their tablets or whatever. Hey, I established time frames for them. We just cut the fat out of our lives, really, just to help us out, and that has given us a whole new perspective on life. We can get things done. We don't need all these pleasures in life, or whatever people call it. Um, that has allowed us to, cut the fat. And we took a trip to Costa Rica recently. That was great. We've been saving so much money on things that we don't actually need, that we've been spending money on in the past. We actually just threw that in a pot, and then we took a trip to Costa Rica. Those memories that we made with the kids, with the family, was incredible. That was worth it to me. So yeah, just cut the fat out of your life, things that you don't need. Just like John said, live a little bit more simpler. That's it. See, and I think the last thing that we had on the military retirement group that somebody wrote was, know what area to retire so you can prep yourself and your family for the travel, the job searches, the schools, etc. ahead of time. Yeah, that's a good piece of advice. If you can figure out where you're going to move to sooner than later. A lot of, like I mentioned, a lot of folks don't know until the end, or until they accept a job somewhere. They don't know. They don't know.
Yep.
So that's a tough one. That was probably my biggest one too. We were on the fence about staying here or moving to Virginia. And only because that's where both my wife and I could get a job that we wanted to do, because the naval bases are there. There's also a Marine base in Virginia. So I'm like, okay, I can establish something there. And I had gotten a hold of somebody from that side, from Virginia, that asked me about accepting a job there after I retire. So kind of like a direct hire GS position. I was on the fence about it, but ultimately we stayed in California because, the jobs paid more here, and I didn't want to move my wife from her current job anymore. I was kind of done with that move life, right? So we just stayed here. But it wasn't until like the last month, like the month prior to my retirement, that we opted to stay here. We're like, you know what? F it, let's just stay here. Yeah.
and they were like, and I'm moving houses.
It's like, yeah, that's it. I mean, I probably moved like 5 miles down from where I was renting. And that was a headache, to say the least. But once we got in here, it was like a relief, just a burden lifted off my shoulders, man. Because I'm like, all right, well, now I have a place for my kids, for my family. I have a place for them, right? Everybody has their own room. I got my office here. It feels good now. But yeah, I mean, you remember, yeah, that's right. We were doing the podcast back then.
We were in the middle of the podcast, and
I was like stressed, man. It was stressful, dude. This can't be life, dude.
Yeah. Well, that, and you were downsizing everything and getting rid of a bunch of stuff, and you were,
that's right.
You were packing, like you were packing, of course, but you were also downsizing. You and your family were downsizing things, and like getting rid of couches and TVs and all kinds of stuff. So
yeah, man, the amount of stuff on my Curb Alerts was amazing. People, I'm sure people have their entire house decorated from the stuff I gave away. Dude, it was just insane. But yeah, that was good feedback from the group. I appreciate everybody from the group. If you're listening, thank you very much for posting those pieces of advice for anybody who's going to be retiring and looking to do something with their life after the fact.
Yeah, and I just want to touch on that last thing that we were just talking about as far as the relocation stuff, and because it literally comes up like every single other day.
Yeah, it does.
For those of you who don't know, like there's a bunch of tools out there. I'm just going to put my like real estate brain on for a minute. I'm not a real estate agent. I'm not a licensed anything real estate, but I spent a lot of time doing research and learning about real estate and working with some real estate investors up in the Northeast, up in New Hampshire, and up near Boston and stuff like that. So I was at weekly meetings and literally walking around, hanging up signs. We will buy your house signs and things like that, and renovating houses and buildings and stuff like that. So I was doing a lot of that legwork maybe making a few bucks on the side, but that wasn't the point. The point was learning how to research better when it comes to housing in general. If you haven't been to like Zillow, right? I'm sure everybody's heard of Zillow. You've heard of it to buy houses and look for houses and find a place to live. But
Yeah.
if you dig a little bit deeper into Zillow, you can actually look in there and see like the things that might be important to you. What's the crime rate? What does the school systems look like? How are they rated? And of course, this is just one source of information. There's multiple sources out there you can go to. But if you're looking for that kind of stuff, and you can also talk to your buying agent on the ground of wherever you're trying to buy a house, if that's across the country or if it's across the street, and ask them to give you access maybe to the MLS. It's called the MLS. I don't remember what the acronym stands for, but that database is usually localized for a certain area or for a county or whatever. The agents have access to it, and they can give you temporary access to it if you would like, if you really want to dig into the specifics of the location or the house or the deed or any of that stuff. But you can actually pull a lot of that data right here on Zillow, and it'll give you stuff like that as far as, of course, the tax history and all that stuff. But there's some stuff down here as you go down to get into like the neighborhood and what's the transit score and what's the bike score and what schools are nearby, right? And I just picked Salt Lake City as an example, but the further you scroll down on the listing, you can see some of that more detailed information to give you a better kind of overview of what you're potentially looking for. If you're looking for school age kids and you need schools close by, like how far are the schools? What are the names of the schools? Are the schools rated, good or bad across the state, or across the country, and things like that. So if you just dig a little bit deeper, and like I said, there's tons of resources out there to go and find this stuff, but one would be something like a Zillow. It gives you a good kind of ballpark figure. The next would be talking to your agent to get some of this data, because they have access to this data as well. A lot of them do. And then that should help you like narrow down your search as far as where you're trying to look for homes or where you want to relocate to after you exit the military, stateside, at least. If you're going overseas, then it's a whole different ball game. But yeah.
No, that's good, man. I feel like I spent a whole lot of time on Zillow myself when I was looking for a place. Like I was on there nonstop, dude.
Yep.
We had found a place that I really liked. This was like maybe a year, 2 years ago, maybe. And we went and toured the place, and it had a pool in the back, but there was a foundation, or there was a crack in the foundation of the pool. So it was like slowly seeping out. They're like, yeah, it's going to have to be fixed. And I looked into it. I was like, that's several tens of thousands of dollars to fix that. I'm like, I'm not going to go into a house knowing that I'm going to have to drop tens of thousands just to make it livable, right? Because the crack went through the foundation. I mean, the house is beautiful, but had foundational issues. You want to make sure you look at that stuff too, right? One thing, John, I want to share real quick is in talking to the folks that I work with about career-wise, what they want to do after the fact. Some of them don't want to do what they were doing in their MOS, right? Their military occupational specialty. I understand that, because I did military justice for 20 years. I was kind of tired of reading court cases. Funny enough, I like doing it now, which is strange, but I was so tired of reading like military court cases and investigations, and I was constantly being the investigating officer, and I gave classes. I taught people how to do command investigations and preliminary inquiries and things like that. I was just tired of doing that, so I figured, I'm not going to do that anymore in my post-military career, and I'm not currently doing that. I completely made a shift to the Navy side. I'm retired Marine, went to work with the Navy, and just wanted to try something new. So here's a good piece of gear that I want to shout out real quick. Let me share it on the screen, and it's called ONET. Okay, ONET Online. It's they told me about this at TRS. One of the best pieces of gear that I found. Really, you can just go on here, say you wanted to be a I don't know, a mechanical engineer or something, or let's just go with human resources manager, right? And it'll show you what kind of tasks that you need to complete as a human resources manager. You can go as detailed as you want, what kind of work activities are expected of you, your job zones. You can actually go on here and see what kind of schools are best in your area by zip code, by state, and see where you can get trained up on these things, apprenticeship opportunities, what kind of knowledge you need to know, what kind of education you need, just a whole lot, like trends, like there's wages and how much in this area. Let me see. Let's go with 921. All right, let's go with California, maybe San Diego. How much they usually make compared to anywhere else around California, and you can. It's just a good piece of gear if you're looking to get into a new career, to see if it's even worth it. If you even want to get into it, how much they pay, what kind of education you need. And it's something that I use all the time. I even had my daughter use it. She's in college, and she's looking at different careers that she wants to get into. As most college kids do, and they're constantly changing majors because they're finding things, and you talk to their friends, etc. I've told her, hey, look at ONET online. I think it's onetonline.org.
That's correct. I'm grabbing it right now so I can put it in.
It's just really good, man. And TRS kind of opened my eyes to this because a lot of folks are on the fence. Like, I don't know what I want to do, what's going to pay the bills. I like doing this, but I also like doing that. Hey, well, why don't you do this and compare the both and see what works out best for you, right? Let me see what else they got here. They got Bright Outlook. So let me see, you can itemize things by how much they're going to be hiring in the next few years. What has a bright outlook on here? Let me see. All these have pretty much bright outlooks. But some of them are labeled like more so than the other, like actuaries. I don't actually know what an actuary is. They analyze statistical data, et cetera, such as mortality, accident, sickness, a bunch of good stuff, right? And it has a bright outlook on here, and it tells you exactly the tech skills you can get into, the work activities they do, and then you can look at the same thing I just mentioned, what kind of knowledge you need, what kind of education you need, bachelor's degree required, etc. Just really good, man. Anybody I talk to about to get out of the military, I always kind of let them know about this website. It's just something that's worked out well for me. It has worked out well for my daughter so far. I'm sure it can help other people out there.
Yeah. And also, if you're doing the VRE or you're trying to do the VRE, that's one of the resources you're going to have to do, because you're going to have to do market research on the potential jobs or job you're trying to work towards through the VRE program. So you're going to have to put together a whole presentation. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. If you want to check that out, I put up my presentation on the screen and we walked through it a little bit, but you're definitely going to have to do that. Or if you're in school and you're working on a business degree, there's a couple classes where that tool will also come in handy. So you can do some market research on jobs and specific types of jobs that you want to do some research and write about and find some good data about. Excellent.
Yeah. And that's good that you mentioned the VRE stuff too, because that's one, and looking at what I want to get into, the potential of them accepting it or approving it. I went on that ONET online and I looked at what might need higher education for the potential of them approving it later on.
Yep.
So if something only needs a bachelor's degree and I want to get approved for a master's, they're not going to approve me for a master's. But if a certain occupation requires a master's degree and that's what I'm searching for, then there's more chance that they do approve that.
Yeah, I forgot that actually. I was going to share that with you so you could have it in your back pocket just in case. And actually, if anybody else wants a copy of it, just hit us up, send us a message. But remind me, or I'll write it down real quick so I can send you a copy of that. That whole VRNE kind of research thing that I put together, so you can use it for yours. Might be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm hoping that this thing goes a little quicker because I did email the guy who is my, I guess, counselor, or I don't know what they call themselves, the counselor, I suppose, who was assigned to my case, my VRNE case. So I did email the guy and asked if this thing can be expedited because I'm looking to start or continue my degree. So hopefully it does. I don't know. I've not heard anything back. This was just last night as I was watching the Olympics. I'm like, you know what? Let me just email this guy real quick. That's just how it works in my mind. Like random things show up. I'm like, I'm doing a grocery list. I'm watching the Olympics. Let me email the VRNE guy. Oh yeah, I forgot to walk the dog. That's the way the mind works.
Oops.
Yeah. So the dog's shivering in the corner. Please let me out.
Just want to
Hair
pee.
falling out. Oh, poor dog.
What kind of dog you got?
He's been let out. No, I've got a Pekingese.
Okay. One of those little bitty ones.
It looks like a pug with a lot of hair. Yeah. So yeah, he's real old. He's like 14 years old. Like we got to let the guy out. I got to pick him up and put him out there. Cute little guy too, man. Breath stinks like hell, but
Nice.
just awesome little dude, man. Bo is his name. So yeah, great guy. And I got a cat too. So she's like the queen of. She doesn't give a shit about anything.
Yeah, cats don't give it. They're like honey badgers. They don't give a damn.
No, they don't give a damn. You got a dog too, don't you?
Yeah, it's a Labrador / Border Collie breed. I think it's called the Labrador. I forget the name of it, but super, super duper smart and super dumb at the same time, but just amazing animal. Just amazing. Yeah.
No, that's good. I used to have a pug, and those things were hilarious, man. They just look at you and their eyes are sideways.
Yeah.
It's like if you stand nose to nose with them, they probably won't be able to see you. So, but yeah, and they do this crazy thing. It has nothing to do with military retirement, but if you ever go online and see how pugs use the restroom when you go to walk them, they can actually stand on their front two legs and do a handstand as they go to the bathroom, which is hilarious, man. I've walked my dog before and I saw that. I'm like, what the hell is it? What am I looking at? What's he doing? He actually did a handstand while he's walking, peeing. Hilarious, dude.
Actually, a circus escapee.
Yeah, right, dude. That funny stuff, man. Has nothing to do with military retirement, but
no, not at all.
That made me laugh. Oh god. Yeah. So yeah, one net is a good piece of gear. Use it.
And on that note,
yeah, compare your careers, compare your salaries. I did see this one post, and I wish I could find it again. It was on another group, not the military retirement group, and somebody had mentioned like, hey, look, they're going to be retiring after, I don't know, it was like 30 years, and like they keep finding the need to look into higher level jobs, like federal jobs, like GS 14, 15. And the guy's like, I did the math. He's like, I'm going to be bringing in with he's 100% VA disabled, and he's got his retirement. It's like an anonymous post. I don't know what this guy's rank is.
30-year retirement.
Yeah. 30 years. So yeah, something fell. I don't know. It's probably the pug out there. 30-year retirement. I assume that this guy is probably pretty high rank, right? Again, anonymous post. But he said that between all those, he's going to be bringing in well over six figures. And he keeps kind of gearing his searches towards like higher level jobs. He's like, he just wanted feedback. Is anybody else like working at like Lowe's or something like that? Not to say that Lowe's is bad, but like maybe
Yep.
doing like a cashier job that doesn't pay as much as a GS 1415 job, and happy with it, because that's the ideal, right? That's what I was looking forward to. Like when I retired, I need to get into something that pays no less than six figures, and that's the only thing I've got my horse blinders on. That's the only thing I want. It doesn't need to be like that. That's going to be higher stress. Higher levels means higher stress. But yeah, this dude got a lot of feedback. Like, yeah, I think you're fine. It's all location dependent. If you're going to be living in like somewhere really high cost, like Los Angeles or something, maybe you want to look into that. It's also what your goals are. I had a goal of paying off my house as soon as possible. So I'm going to keep my job for the time being until I can do that. Because, we throw more money at it in order to get it paid off. Depends on what your goals are. Right. And, I also want to take trips with the family, et cetera, et cetera. So again, depends on what the goals are. But yeah, you might feel the need to want to step into a higher level position because that's what you're used to. It doesn't need to be like that. You don't have to do that. You can go work. I have a buddy who retired at 30 years. He moved to Texas and he literally works at Home Depot, just hanging out. He walks around Home Depot with his mug in his hand, talking to people, just like, hey man, I see you over there looking at the wood, need any help? He's got his mug in his hand, as he did when he was, a chief warrant officer in the Marine Corps. You just go office to office with your mug in your hand, and that's what he does. So
yeah, I just did a quick calculation for like a 06 retiring at 30 years. And so what is 100% VA disability pay? It's like right at $4,000, right?
it's like 40. It depends on the kids and all that stuff, and
Right.
the spouse, but it's
Right.
probably about 4,300.
Okay, so let's just call it 4,300 plus 5970, almost 6,000. That's not bad. And then if you calculate the fact that the VA disability pay is essentially tax-free, right?
That's right. Yeah.
That's
You're making about 10 grand there a month doing that.
I mean, carving out little pewter chess pieces on the weekends.
Yeah. Why not?
In your spare time between fishing trips. That sounds like a good life to me.
Yeah, not bad at all, man. Yeah, that's kind of eye-opening too, because I work with a lot of 06s myself, like retired 06s who have very high level positions, and it's like, holy shit, man, they're doing really well,
Yeah.
But
yeah, if you're making that and then you're making like a GS 14 pay on top of that, like Jesus, it's a lot of money.
It is, but again, it all depends on what your goals and your ambitions are. Some folks want to, pay off their house, live in a nice area, have the accessibility to travel, give their family things that maybe they didn't have the chance to give them while they were in uniform. At least those are some of my goals too. That's a big reason why I keep the job that I do have, is being able to pay off my place, and I don't like to owe people anything. I don't like to have debt. That's a big reason why I paid off my stuff. Every single thing I own, right? Except for the house right now, which I'm paying off.
Yep.
But about 5 years before I retired, I was debt free. And I made that a point between my wife and I. We were a team, right? As you should be with your spouse. We were a team. We had open discussions about finances and, our way forward and my plans to retire. It wasn't just my plan to retire. It was both of ours. She's also my support system too. So we had open discussions about that and to see if we could actually make things happen. And sure enough, we could. My wife is GS. I'm a DOD contractor, retired, VA disability, et cetera. So we can make things happen. But yeah, I'd say if you are, that goes also with what I want to mention. If you are married, please make sure that you get your significant other involved in your decision making when it comes to like your retirement. Don't just say, hey, I'm going to retire. Oh, but we owe $40,000 on this, whatever it is. That's probably not going to work out well for anybody. Not your marriage, not your finances. I'm not a marriage counselor by any means. I just know what would get me in trouble, and I know how to avoid arguments. So after 20 years in the Marine
Conflict
Corps and after
mitigation.
being married, dude, after being married for almost 18 years and being in the Marine Corps for a little bit over 20 years, I know how to avoid conflict and de-escalate situations.
You're like the
And I know
negotiator.
keywords make sense. Yeah, negotiator, right? Like Chris Voss, the FBI negotiator, right? I know keywords. I know words mean things. So yeah, just keep them in the loop, man.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a great place to kind of start to wrap it up. I just want to say a couple things. I think we're going to be sending out an email within the next few days to let people know how to get a hold of the book. If you're on the email list, if you're not on the email list, get to the Facebook group and sign up. Eventually, I think I'm going to put a button or something on the website, which would probably be a smart thing to do, but there's only one of me, and there's only so many fingers that I could put on the keyboard at one time. But yeah, we're going to get an email out, I would say, this week for those of you who are looking to get a copy of the book. Completely free. I don't think we're going to charge anything for it. We may set it out on Amazon for like 99 cents or $1.99 or something like that. And that's really just to cover the cost of putting it together, getting it all set up and publishing it and paying for publishing fees and all that crap. The other thing I want to mention is one of the people, and they're not a sponsor. The only people that sponsor this show right now are us, myself and Victor. So if you want to buy our bobbleheads, you can find them linked in the on the website. You can get a bobblehead of John or a bobblehead of Victor, which I think is actually a good idea. We should do that at some point. But yeah, I wanted to definitely give a shout out to Riverside.fm. Not sponsored, of course, but they definitely are supporting the podcast. They've given us a lot of leeway with their platform. We're on StreamYard right now doing this live, but we also record all of our interviews through Riverside, and they are a big supporter of the show as far as not just only putting up with our our tech support requests, but also just emailing us once in a while, let us know that they're supporting us as a show. As we are progressing, they see we're putting in the effort and putting in the progress, and we're active in the Riverside community as well. So if you're looking at starting anything, or you want to record something, record interviews with your family members and keep them as keepsakes, it's a great place to set that up. And you can usually do a lot of that stuff for free. We have this higher level plan that we use so that we can record hours and hours and hours of conversations. But I definitely want to give them a shout out for reaching out this last week and giving us a nice boost in support for using their platform. So we are definitely spokespeople for the Riverside platform, and we're looking to bring on some sponsors as well. So we're digging into that, and we're in the works and having conversations with that as well, so that we can then do this on a bigger scale as we move forward. And then, of course, we're looking to get to 1,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel. So if you have the time and you like what we're doing and we bring you some value and you want to support us, really just go to the YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button. And then if you're watching any of the videos, just let them play. And that really helps the channel grow and get bigger. And it helps push it out to more people who may be interested in the same kind of topics, so that we're not just a fly on the wall out there putting out information, that we're actually reaching a broader spectrum of people who need help, not just the retirees, but transitioning service members, people from all services. So yeah, I just want to put those couple things out there, and that's all I got, man.
Oh yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth, man. I was going to throw that up there. 1,000 subs, and we're going to go to the Military Influencers Conference in September in Atlanta, Georgia. So I'm super excited about that. And I know we're inching closer to the 1,000 subscriber mark, and I want to get us there. I want to make sure that I put the time and effort, and I want everybody out there who's listening to be a part of that as well, to help us get out to the Military Influencers Conference and hit 1,000 subscribers. That's been our mission. That's been our goal. And help support us, man.
That's all I got, man. Thank you, everybody, for listening, watching, paying attention. Thank you for everybody in the comments, to Danica, to Military Mike, and everybody else who's been in there chatting with us. Hopefully, we were able to help you out a little bit with what you're trying to take care of. And be on the lookout this week, as the next episode of interviews coming out will be this week. It'll be Mr. David Grant. He's the former director of the SFL, Soldier for Life, for the U.S. Army. I sat down with him, had a nice long conversation, like we always do. So that episode will be out coming up this week. So stay tuned for that one.
Awesome, man. Hey, great to be with you again, John, and great to be with everybody out there. All the links, if you're wondering, are right above my head here. Military Retirement Group on Facebook, Military Retirement Podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and my own personal channel, The Green Logbook, is on YouTube as well. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for staying with us and listening to us talk about what we do.
And talk about dogs.
Pugs doing handstands.
Pug life. All right, man.
All right.
See everybody
All right.
later.
Out here.